Okay, here I have another receiver. This is an Akai AA-1020. I picked this up for the bargain price of $10. That was a pretty good deal on this. Does have a little bit of rust on the back and the power cord's been cut off. So I've just undone the screws, but I haven't had a look inside yet, so this will be my first view inside. And oh, it looks quite good. A bit of dust over on the amp section. There is a little bit of rust on the chassis. Oh, another nice big flywheel on the tuning there. Let's hope it doesn't seize up like that Pioneer one. Almost looks like an identical tuning cap to the Pioneer too. And yeah, another... Oh, actually it's not a low power output in this one. Like, that's actually a substantial transformer. Still, actually they're more than 1 amp diodes possibly. But we've actually got TA3 outputs here. Possibly even complementary pairs. 2SD371, no, they're all 2SD371s, made by Toshiba. That looks a bit more powerful, mate. You might get 20 watts out of this one. Maybe even a little more. So at least it's a fairly solid unit. But at least the rust seems to mostly be confined to the outside though. Is that just dirt on these output transistors? They are a little bit corroded, I think, on the cases. A couple of these trim pots don't look perfect. But supposedly there's something wrong with this thing. That resistor's been bent a bit for some reason. Could have been done in the factory. Now I do have fuses anywhere. I assume there are some in this thing. I haven't really even had a good look at it. What do we got? Speaker connections, 110 volts type socket for output. Obviously just switches to the local voltage, 240 volts. And there must be a fuse in this thing somewhere. Where's the filter cap come from? Well, there's that little board. Bridge rectifier. Ah, yeah, might be something down under here where the mains comes in. I guess we should have a quick look underneath. Oh, here we go. That would be where the fuses are. It's even got a little panel to tell you, and a little access panel to get to them. Oh, well, a couple of them are missing, maybe. Oh no, that's, oh, I see. So you set the voltage. It's actually set to 220 volts. That looks like another car fuse, which worries me. And yeah, that one's blown, I think. That looks like an interesting spiral element in that one. That's not an amperage rating. I think that just says 3AG. 35 amps, I think. It looks it. Look at the size of the metal in that thing. Although with this metal blocking the light, that is a really big thick fuse. So we definitely don't want a, well, it should be a 1.2 amp for the 240 volts. Let's hope to hell someone hasn't burnt the transformer out or something with that. That's a 1.6 amp, is it? Oh yeah, they should be both 1.6s. I'm pretty sure that one's just an open circuit now. That one looks a little dodgy, but I think it's still intact. Is that a T2 amp? Oh no, ST2. Oh, that's a 1.6. So it looks like at a minimum we've probably got DC coming out of one of the outputs. Whoops, I dropped that in there. That wasn't very smart. Looking at my multimeter instead of what I'm doing. Well, let's just check. Ooh, that's not measuring good, so it does look slightly fried. And yeah, now she's open circuit. If that multimeter's working properly, no, she's no good. That's easy enough to fish out. We definitely don't want a 35 ampere there. So let's see if I can find something a bit more suitable. Oh, I do have some 5 amps in the big ones, do I? Oh no, it says 15 amp. It says 5 amp on the side. Oh, maybe it's just an old box I've reused. Yeah, it's a 5 amp. That could almost do for that other amp that has a 4 amp, but I probably should really put the right one in there. 3.15 amp. These I think are 1 amperes. Oh, they'll do for now. I think we'll just put some 1 amps. That's a 2 amp. 2 amp. And little ones. and 1 amp, so I haven't got a very good range. I used to have pretty much all of them, but over the years I just tended to use them up and not worry about replacing them because they became quite obsolete. Most of this old audio gear, no one cared about it much, and you're mainly fixing TVs and stuff which had the small fuses. So I'm just going to put a 1 amp in everything. Put that in the correct 240 volt. Let's chuck all those in the rubbish. I don't think I want a 35 amp fuse for anything. I might just, probably should take the bottom right off this thing, but I'll just screw that cover back on anyway because I don't think that holds the bottom on. So the next thing will be to make sure, turn the power on, and I'll just go to the what's left of that power cord there, which is just cut off wires, and see if we've actually got continuity there. Fingers crossed, so that's a good sign that power transformer's still intact. It hasn't been burnt out enough to, or overloaded enough to destroy the primary winding in it, and whatever's wrong with this may not even be putting a load on the transformer, but the fact someone's changed that fuse would suggest it's been blown at some stage, but wouldn't be the first time someone's changed a fuse for no good reason as well. Sometimes people just go and change a lot of them or whatever and just bung something in there that they got, which is often a car fuse or something they got lying around. At least it isn't just cigarette paper or something around it. Although a 35 amp is probably worse than that in a way, or equal to it. Certainly a very slow blow fuse. I mean, it would blow the circuit breaker in your house before it blows that. Since the old fuses, wire fuses in the house, all rated around 16 amps for power circuits, so... Oh, well, let's have a look. Now I guess the next thing I'm going to check is those diodes in the bridge rectifier. Make sure they aren't short circuit. If you've ever got a primary fuse blown or something, always check them first. There are a couple of grotty looking old diodes there. I don't know if I can even make a good connection to those, but they seem okay. And can we get to these transistors? Not really. So it looks like I'm going to have to take the bottom off. Because again, it's best to check. We can just go straight across those filter capacitors. If there's a short across them, then we know we've got a blown output or something. But just because there's no short across them doesn't mean the outputs are any good. Let's stop the camera going silly. It's got an Orion transformer in it. Whether that's the Orion company that made TVs and VCRs and stuff, I don't know, but I get a funny feeling they did have a symbol like that. So here's all our output transistors. I don't really need to go across the filter caps. I can just... That's not a good sign. I think we might have a dead one. So I'm guessing that one's probably shot. Oh, am I touching the heatsink? Is that what it was? Oh, I think I might have just slipped and... Yeah, if I touch the aluminium heatsink. Yeah, is that all it was? So they all seem to be alright. Okay, well maybe someone's just blown it up, overloading it or something. Putting a dodgy speaker on it. Who knows? All I can do is plug it in. At least I feel safe to plug that in. I know none of the major parts are blown. I don't see any lights, but at least the tuning... Oh yeah, there is a slight light there. The tuning meter goes up, so that's the sign we've got power, but there is one dimish light. Oh, there's one on the end of the panel here. Oh, we've got a power light on the front. There's a little LED, which can be ABC, a red LED. I think any light down the other end of that dial's blown. And we've got one little light right behind the corner of the front panel here. So we'll do the DC on the speaker check. Do we have a speaker output selector? We bound out something. A and B. Can't go wrong with A and B. It's definitely going to be connected to whatever you measure. I might just go on the inside, I think here it'd be easier. And it would help if I put that on. It holds DC 0.4 minus 0.3, which is probably just 0.4 the other way around. Yeah, the terminals are an opposite thing, so this possibly works. Or has some other distortion issues or something. I'm not actually, when you're actually looking for a faulty unit, it's hard to find them these days. If I was really hoping these things would all work, then they'd probably all be faulty. How does that work? Okay, so we've got some weirdo speaker terminals here. Oh, do they pull out? Okay, they're a bit different. I thought they slid down. Oh, they do slide down. That's just being a pain. So these you push down, but you've got to get your finger on there just right. So look how sticky they are. Yeah, if I push it right on that outer bit, it doesn't do anything, but if you get down lower, they're pretty horrible old things. They're not in the best condition. Probably why I see a lot of these things with banana type terminal binding post type things on the back, because a lot of these early speaker connectors were not real good quality. A lot of the 70s amps and that, these are broken or stiff or whatever. They don't work as good as they should, and probably never did work that well. But once you get the hang of some of them, they not as bad as they seem at first. And given that you're not really fiddling with them much, it doesn't matter much if they are a little bit iffy like that. It's not like you're plugging it in and out all the time. Going to auxiliary. And hope we don't have too much crackling or distortion or dodgy pots. Turn the volume. Where is the volume? Down. Not hearing anything. Selector, auto, source. Oh, that's for dubbing. Tape monitor. Oh, source, back to source. Auto, auxiliary. Not very nice switches on this thing, I must say. Balance. I'm not getting any sign of output of that from this thing. So that's interesting. I'll light up. Oh, that light's on. Oh, that was the FM stereo light. I thought that was a power light. I say the red LED's gone, but we must have just been on a station or something. There's no crackling. What have I done or not done? Absolutely nothing. Those speakers still plugged in. Yep. Okay. It's pretty unlikely we've got some sort of open circuit thing here, but then they go to a white wire that comes here to the speaker selector. I assume we haven't blown any fuses here, but I better check. Ooh, maybe we have. Yeah, I think we've blown my 1 amp fuses to the speakers. That's probably why. Is that for the speakers though? That's two. Oh, they're joined together on one side. Okay, no. So I was assuming they were probably speaker fuses since they're the same rating, those two, but they're joined on one side to common, and then two pink wires, and that seems to. They both seem to be open circuit again. So let's have a look. Assume the chassis is earth. I'll try it. I'll go to a RCA socket's always a better bet. And this will be the common in, I assume. 60 volts. And nothing. If it's 60 volts, one would assume that is for the channels. So that's not a good sign. Now, will they look slow blow fuses or anything? Could be that we popped them because they're not. Just says 1.6 amps protection. So, I guess I should check maybe across those filter caps. I think that's one there. Fine. Let's go to, which one of these is ground, I wonder? Oh, we'll soon find out, I guess, because neither of those goes to the positive of that cap, or negative. Oh, of course it won't, because it's probably a bridge rectifier. Oh, that was DC though, wasn't it? I would assume that goes, okay, so maybe it goes, who knows? These are all NPN transistors, aren't they? So there's not going to be a negative rail. And there's our pink wires here, so one's for each channel, I'm guessing. So we might actually have an interesting fault here after all. And I assume, what's the colour of the other wire? Red, I think it was. Is it that one? Yeah, it's that one. And that comes up here, and it goes to this terminal here. So it looks like that's that terminal there. And then, yeah, that comes across to the main filter cap bottle. So we've got a main filter cap, then we've got, oh, maybe they're speaker coupling caps or something weird. In fact, yeah, it looks like those white wires may go to the, yeah, to the speaker selector switch. So that's your speaker out. And yeah, that's, so they're output coupling caps by the look of it. Well, I'll be. So that would suggest we've got some sort of, maybe we've got a leaky output or something. Maybe someone has blown the outputs up in this. If we go to ground on that main filter cap, measures okay-ish, but it's only 0.6. It's going up, so there's a cap there or something. And it's sitting at 0.6, like a diode junction there, so maybe that is one of the transistors or something. Oh, now it's rising. So there's no dead shorts. Yeah, we're charging a capacitor with a multimeter there somewhere. Interesting. So, what have we got wrong? Now, we've got these horrible driver transistors with all the corroded legs on them. Could be something like that. The fact we're not measuring a short circuit is interesting. Now that should, I'm guessing, from there should go to the collector of these transistors. Well, it's not measuring as if it does, is it? Or at least the collector of one of them. Well, that one's got it. Maybe that's through a capacitor or something. Well, that one won't go to that channel anyway. That will be the one for that channel. Yep. Point 2. 0.1. So we're getting slightly different readings between the collectors of the two transistors from one to the other from the power rail to the other one. Which wouldn't surprise me if we've got some leaky transistors or something that's old. So I guess I need to be a bit more careful with my measurements around these output transistors. Before it was just a make sure they're not shorted kind of scenario. One of these, I forget which pin on these TA3s is the base, but it's probably that one. Ooh, 0.1. But that could be a resistor or something. That's pretty low, if that is the base. And that's 0.1 as well. I think they're all going to probably be like that. Ooh, yeah, it's not real happy. So we could still have dead outputs here, or it could be something driving them. I'm guessing that's the base, but I don't actually know for sure. 0.1, let's go the other way. Or the other way to the collector would be more use. Yeah, the fact those ones go to some little component there probably means they are the base. Or the other one I like goes to some sort of driver. Is that a massive drive doing I see there? Something dodgy about that connection. I assume that's some sort of driver transistor. I'd say it definitely is. Is it actually connected to this? I'm going to resolder that while I see it, because that looks pretty iffy, that connection. Got the power off. Yeah, maybe just had a bit of stray solder on top of it, but it certainly wasn't happy. There's a bit of muck in there. There's the other one that goes to one of those transistors. Here. Yeah, that's not the best joint either, but I don't think that's our issue. Probably the best thing to do is actually disconnect these things if I can, and do some outer circuit testing. Looks like we can just suck the solder off these pads. It's already moving. The board pressed down. But we can give them a slight flick if necessary just to get them up. I hope we don't have a set of dead outputs, but it could be that bad. It shouldn't be reading like that, I'm pretty sure of that, assuming I am disconnected. Or maybe that's the base. I think that is the base on that side, not the side I thought it was. So let's just check, I guess, with the multimeter. Is it connected? Still connected to the board, I think. It's one bit weird readings. Yeah, that one's still got a bit of solder there somewhere. Let's bend it up a bit, make sure it's disconnected. Still got a bit of solder there, has it? Get the sucker on that again, I think. That's got it, I think. Yep. It's a base to... oh, needs measuring to the circuit board. Oh, now we don't get a connection there. Oh, wait up. Yes, we do. 0.5. 0.5. And hopefully nothing. So I think that output's alright. So why does it measure leaky across it? Problem is now I've got no idea what's on that circuit board connected to those things. That's okay, so that is the emitter, goes through the resistor. It doesn't go straight to the capacitor. That's another connection there, or component there, to Some little resistor, is it? Yeah, that's not what we want. Then there's a low ohm resistor there, and a ceramic capacitor. So I wonder if those are the caps. Oh, well, that's the emitter of that's not going to be going to the speakers anyway, I wouldn't think. What does it go to? Oh, to ground maybe. No. Yes, maybe. No, it's on the end one of those connectors. It is a black wire, yeah, that goes to ground. Okay, let's see if that measures out. That's an RCA socket. Yeah, that's ground. And that one must be this one then, maybe. One of these must also go to ground, so we know we've got a good ground there. And we know we've got positive coming in, or to the collectors, ground to the emitters of the other transistor. That was where the positive came into here. So most likely we've got a driver issue. And I can see one of those not so nice looking transistors there. I think the other one I checked actually measured alright, so I think that's a transistor. That's probably the base, or not. Doesn't seem faulty. We're still low reading across the base emitter. Like I say, maybe that is just a resistor. Base emitter, so it goes to that transistor. Oh, there's that resistor, which is a 150 ohm, I think. 15 ohm, 150 ohm, something like that. 150 ohm. Well, I'm none the wiser there. I guess maybe I should pull this other transistor. But so far that's all looking good. Let's forget that a bit. Just call the camera in time. Okay, let's check this little one. Now, did I decide that was base? Oops, I put it on the right setting. 0.5, 0.5, nothing to collector, and there's nothing, I guess, the collector to the earth. I don't know if that could be some leakage, because it shouldn't be connected to the heatsink. I think it's just a capacitor somewhere. I assume that's earthed. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Now there must be another transistor here somewhere driving this one, which is this little thing here, I reckon. I think that was one I resoldered before. 0.5. 0.5. I'm measuring something there. Roughly the same each way. Now, do we have another resistor? There's probably a resistor there, maybe. Another 150 ohms by the look of it, which is probably what we've got across this thing. It's more like 400 ohms. I'll just disconnect that to test it, just to make sure. They do look to be in pretty poor state, those transistors, so I wouldn't be surprised if something's wrong with them, but kind of odd that both channels seem to be playing up by the look of it. Diode test to be more use probably. I don't think that's too good, that one. Anyway, it's going to be to take it off the board, I guess, assuming I have got the right leads. And I'm not working on some random components here, which is not impossible. I'm guessing that's the transistor. And there it is, a D438. And it'll probably measure perfectly out of circuit like they usually do, but you never know. Keep my fingers off there. So I think that was the base, that end. So 0.5, usual sort of round 0.6 volt junctions. The question is there anything between these other two leads? And you should get these off your fingers because they can give you false readings. And it'll probably measure fine. Ooh, it doesn't. I think we've got a leaky transistor here. Pretty sure that's not some weird Darlington or something, but I guess we can check in the data book. D438. TUSD. Pages falling out everywhere. D438 is just a standard low saturation 100 volts, 0.7 amps, 7C standard sort of pin out. I don't know if I've got anything like that. And this is why I used to collect second-hand transistors and a few new ones that ended up in there as well, but at least you've got something you can possibly substitute just to test the thing. Was it a D438? From memory they were quite a common transistor in these sort of things, but whether I've got a one I've salvaged out of something, but I'd have something here that's equivalent, I would think. Oh, D438. A bit more modern than that one. I had a feeling I might have one. Hopefully I've got two. D400. Oh, I can see another one. Not very long leads on them, but better than nothing. Yeah, I thought they were a pretty common transistor. There's another one. Bit better leads than that last one I pulled out. So maybe we've got a failed transistor in each channel of the same sort, who knows. I'll put that one back in there. So let's, I guess at least we can certainly compare the pin out. I think that was meant to be the base. And sure enough, completely open where it should be. Oh well, nice when you've got the actual exact transistor, saves you having to look through a heap of substitutes to try and find something with the same things, but a lot of these amplifiers over the years all use the same stuff anyway, or very similar, and these older ones usually have the lower rated stuff in them. So a transistor used in a later amp will work in one of these because it'll be a better rated transistor. Now the one thing I forgot to do was note which way around it went. I think it was facing that way, but let's have a look. Yes, that's the base. Yeah, that should be the base, because I think it was facing that way. But yeah, sometimes these boards of course aren't marked. You get so used to the later stuff being screen printed that you can be a bit slack on some of these old ones and forget to get rid of that CD player input. Getting a bit of a tangle of wires here. Now let's check again. Should be base. Yeah, and the one driving the transistor is that one, so on the other channel, which one is it? That one. It certainly shouldn't be the base connected to the output transistor. I think that's the complementary pair of that one. Or was it the other way around? Yeah, because that was the one there that went to ground, so that's right. So you can always check the other channel with a stereo amp is a good thing. Generally the transistors are all chained together so that the collector of one goes into the base of the next. So in theory we should be able to change the fuse and see if this channel runs before I even do the other one, but I might check the other one for leaky, for the same transistor being leaky, because usually when you look at them and those leads are all tarnished and black, it's actually a little bit of plastic or something between the leads. It's often a sign that it's a very old transistor. Sometimes I think they get silver migration or something, tin whiskers, all sorts of stuff that where the coating of the leads may even short across between them, or something inside the transistor fails for the same sort of reason, some sort of metal migration or something, or it grows little crystal whisker things that end up shorting something out or creating a leaky situation like that. But these old amps were common for dodgy sort of driver transistors and stuff back in the day. Wasn't uncommon. Some of these early Japanese, their later semiconductors are super reliable, but some of these earlier ones, and I think everyone's were the same back in those days, much earlier in the development of the transistor, and they found a few issues. I guess we'll check that other transistor, which is I think across there if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I got the wrong thing maybe. Where was it? Yeah, that's it I think. Don't remember it being shorted. Oh, that's come good now. Or maybe it hasn't. Oh, that's the base. So maybe that one's even worse. Again, only one way to find out is to really pull it off the board. I think I've got the right part. It's got to be it, I think. Soon find out. Oops, big dag from the solder sucker there. I think that's that transistor because it was mounted in a different direction. Which, if you want to have a look up here, it's this one here. So I've got the flat pointing to the front, and I might just have to solder that a bit more with the soldering iron. One of the leads is still stuck. Yep, must have a bit of a blob on it. Sometimes I haven't cut the lead end off properly or something. And another D438, so definitely the same thing. Okay, that was the base, I think. If I can get hold of the bloody thing. Again, base measures well. Yeah, it's almost not as shorted as it was measuring in there, but oh yeah, it does. So it's less than 0.1 volt. Varying a bit. Look at that, it's going right up again. But I think that's another short transistor by the look of it. And I'm not sure my other one has long enough leads. Trust me to get them out of something that had short leads in it. But obviously came out of something much more modern. They may have been used in anything from horizontal or vertical circuits in a TV to some sort of voltage regulators. Now I'm just looking, there's another complementary transistor there. What are they? B560s. So they're another one that could be also iffy, and if you're going to fix this amp up and sell it, or fix it for a customer or whatever, I would recommend replacing at least that pair of transistors in each channel, because if some are going, the others probably aren't far behind. Not worth the risk, and while you got it apart, you might as well charge them for a couple extra parts, a little bit extra labour, than have the thing come back on you and annoy them when it fails again. But yeah, if there's dodgy transistors, in some ways, more than recapping these things, you're better off with some of these older ones of just re-transistoring them, getting rid of the whole lot of the driver transistors. Why can't I reach it with my finger? Where are you? God damn, put your finger exactly where it should be, and there's a lot of crap in the way. I think those leads are quite going to make it long enough, are they? Oh, they're just enough length, I think. So ideally you'd buy a couple of new transistors. But since I've got a couple of old ones, I'll see if I can get this going on the spot. Now what I should do is check the transistor. So that was that one. So where is it? Is it that thing? It sure is. I think that's the 3 pins here. I hope I don't have to change these now, but if I do, I do. That would be your base, I guess. Oh, it's a PNP. Yep. Ooh. It's rising. I think we'd better check them though. There's no point changing one and putting a new fuse in and find it blows the fuse again because the other one's shot. This solder socket needs emptying. Just dropping a bit of junk in here. I think I might as well just pull it right off the board and check them. Might even see, you never know, I might have some of these B560s or whatever they are. They never come perfectly loose. Which one is it, that end one? Similar looking tarnished leads on it. Which one did I say? Was it that one? I should have checked the mounting again, I forgot. That seems to be good. So that's probably a sign that they are okay. Those ones might just be the other ones that are prone to failure, but I would change them anyway. Like I say, often these transistors are more unreliable than the capacitors in these 70s things. Now where were we there? And I've forgotten whether which one's the base. That one there, I think, was it? There are a couple of caps in here that don't look perfect. That one, I think. So that's the base on this end, and that should be that end. So it's facing towards the heatsink. Might just compare that with the other channel just to be sure. I think that was right. If you plug one of these in the wrong way, you may well end up with the same situation of blowing a fuse because things aren't biased on properly, or only one half of the transistor output is. I'll just check that. That should be the base. And looks like it is. And the one in the other channel, we might as well give a quick check over. It is right up the end here. So that should be the base. That one's rising up nicely, so I think we can say that one's fine. Certainly not stuck down at that 0.2 volts, 0.1 volt junction. So that's probably a goer. I solder those outputs back in. I guess we could put one fuse in at a time, but I've got a heap of them, so I'm going to live dangerously and put them both in. I better make sure I've definitely got the right ones here. It should be the other end from that one. Oh yeah, it was the pink wire, so it's definitely the ones here joined to the one red wire. I guess we could probably leave this upside down. I'm still plugged into the speakers. I could put that CD back in because we know, let's be optimistic here that it's going to do something other than blow the fuses. Get that solder out of the way. Cord. Mains cord's way too short, of course. Yeah. Ooh, I hear speakers, no blown fuses, no obvious blown fuses. I heard something, but still not that promising. So did we pop the fuses again? Maybe that was just the inrush current and it blew the fuses. Just double check. Well, they're not blown, so that's a good sign. Now, the speakers are still connected, CD's going in. Auxiliary input. Oh, I've got flicking from that switch. We're on source, balance. But we still don't seem to have any sound going through this thing. I'll tell you why, because the CD player's stopped. That's probably one of the reasons. It's just very quiet. I can't believe how quiet this amp is. And so that's a success. So it shows that just having a couple of faulty driver transistors can be enough to bias the transistors wrongly or something. That's probably what went on, and it pulls too much current and blows the fuses. It's unlikely those transistors just on their own were popping the fuses, but it could be the case. Since it was a collector emitter short, they would have been connected somewhere to that 60 odd volt rail, I guess. But you know, the fact they're driving into other transistors and stuff, it's more likely it's probably biasing the output transistors on more than they should be, because you basically got a leak. Instead of that transistor being turned on by its base, it's just leaking voltage straight through it. So that's probably starting one of these up, making it conduct, and then that's just shorting the rail out, something along those lines. But this seems to be a goer. Let's try the radio out. Not very nice. I don't like these rectangular knob things we've got for the selector and stuff. Not the nicest things to use. They certainly look a bit different. Quite uncomfortable. They actually got quite sharp edges on them, so one quirk about it. Zero. You're like a 1980s. AM. Don't know if, oh, did I see how I got a rod antenna on the back again? I'd say that's working just from that.
Into there was sort of moment to moment, they did this, they did that. And one of the things that seems to have come out of that is that for a new song, people will listen for about 7 seconds and then change the channel if they don't like it, or if they've not heard it, something that's a hook. And so the music industry has taken that to mean, okay, everything.
Yes, that seems to be alright. Another quirk about this, the volume controls here, so you keep going to turn the balance control to do volume. So kind of typical of Akai to do things a little bit weirder than other people. But I guess this was still in the days they're working it out. But I've got bass treble, as you'd expect. I guess for some people volume would be the next in line, but most of them have volume there and bass balance before that, or balance on the other side or something. Again, we've got one of these not so nice rectangular switch knobs. They are quite sharp on the corners, which is surprising. And another one for the tape source, which probably isn't used that much. But yeah, I think this will clean up alright. I guess the other thing I better check, is there another lamp? Oh yes, there is another lamp down the other end of the dial cord here, just here. A bit out of focus, of course. So we do have a second lamp. Now where does the wiring for that go? It comes underneath and goes along under the front panel by the look of it. And probably joins up where the other one is somewhere. Oh, I reckon it's this wiring here. All these white wires, yeah, that's one of them. I guess the other one comes out, yeah, I can see a couple of wires coming out near the speaker selector switch. Looks like they go to these two terminals, so probably AC there. And we safe to plug that back on. Looks like it. Turn it on and up. Let's see what we got. Probably AC. But every time I put it on one, it turns out to be the other. Or 13 volts. So I guess they're 12 volts. So we need another 12 volt lamp. That other one doesn't seem awfully bright. But maybe it's correct. I mean, they look like they're still the originals, I think. Don't think anyone's been soldering that. Let's see if I can pull it out. They're not going to make it easy. I don't think it's in a rubber grommet, but it's probably gone hard over time. I don't know if I want to risk yanking on it. It'll probably break the globe. Not that it matters because it's blown, but whether it'll come out is the problem. Oh yeah. So with a hard pull on it, I managed to pull the globe out of its grommet, and it's actually got a blue bit of plastic over it. The other one certainly didn't look blue, so maybe that's faded. I might even risk pulling on that one with some pliers, even though it works. Ooh, I think it's ripping it to bits. Oh no, she might be coming. No, it is blue. It probably ain't going to work now. No, it still goes here. Look how dim it is. That's definitely not right, I don't think. That looks like an 18 volt globe or 24 volt globe on a 12 volt rail, unless there is something wrong with that. I doubt it would have a drop of resistor or anything, but you never know. It could be that these wires, wherever they come from the transformer, looks like it's that green wire. Something could be faulty there, but 12 volts seems correct. It doesn't really light up much of the dial. I'll have to get some, what were they, 1.6 amp fuses. That's another oddball value. 12 volt, not with leads. I've got some of these little lamps. I did have some 12 volt ones I thought I bought for another tuner. That's right, they had blue wires I think, and they've all disappeared. Oh, here's some bigger ones. Oh, they're the same size, I think. Bonus. Sometimes you can just solder the wires onto one of these and put a bit of heat shrink over them. There's only so many types you normally keep in stock, and you're not going to get ones like that one. You're not going to pull all the wiring out. It may be joined just in there, but I'm not going to take the whole front panel off to do it anyway, because that's just ridiculous. So we can probably poke these into the grommets. The only problem is I don't think there's blue stuff. I think it's actually been painted, the light globe. Sometimes they paint them. I'll be interested to see what sort of brightness that one comes up at. I'll leave a little bit of lead on that just in case I want to use it again, which I don't think I will, but it seems a shame to get rid of the original if it's still working, but I don't know why it's so dim. It's a bit hard to see, but it is lit up around the, especially around this end. You can see a bit of a glow there around the meter and that end of the tuning dial, and there is a bit around the end of the, if I can shade the right bit, You can just see around the knob there, it goes right down below the knob and right around the side. Bit hard to see. Well, there is a power light, I just couldn't see it, I think. I could have sworn that power light. Oh no, it's probably because the fuse is blue. So there's a power light and an FM stereo light. But yeah, that one is okay to give a test run to now, though I might see what were those B560? Yeah, B560 to its B560s. Okay, so we've got 2SDB. That was a 560, and they're A's. What are the chances of having any 560s in here? I think I just saw one. Ha! Look at that. That is a B560 by the look of it. $544. It's amazing how many of these transistors are all commonly used. Got a lot of B544 and 764s. $764 again. 544. They must be a very common transistor. Probably in some television set or something that I pulled them out of. I wouldn't have pulled that many bits of audio gear apart. There's another one. Yeah, I've got a couple of B560s, so I might be able to just put a couple of second-handers. These are obviously much newer versions, which is what I care about. I wouldn't put anything with those tarnished old leads in there. And I guess the next thing would probably be to see if I can find a manual on this, because we probably need to set all the bias, voltage, current, whatever it is in these that you set on these couple of trim pots in each one. I guess I should give this board a good clean in a minute too. Straighten these old legs out, but these are obviously a bit newer than those ones that are in there, so for me that's good enough. But yeah, obviously if it was a paying customer, you'd just get new parts. Wouldn't bother fiddling around with second-hand stuff, other than they're good if you just want to do a quote and make sure there are no hidden problems. What are these other ones like? That's a C945, that's got good clean legs on it. And we've got another one there, maybe C1222. It's about all that's in here. That capacitor looks slightly iffy, but I guess I should get the ESR meter onto this as well. You never know, this one might need a recap. Always pays to check, because sometimes you'll get one brand or other will have a bad batch of caps in it, ones that are known to fail, or maybe not known to fail but they've all gone anyway. Oh yeah, I might just disconnect all this and we work these again. Get these leads out of the way. Getting sick of them getting in my way. And I've got of course I put a short power cord on there, and that's the worst choice on this because it's such a big unit. Now I think, was it that one there? No, that's the one I changed. It's right down there somewhere. I think it was that spread out set of leads there, was it? You got a resistor. I think that's it. I definitely got power off. Should have really checked the filter cap if it was charged. Shouldn't be if the thing's running, but it's a good habit to get into. God, always hitting the bloody camera. So these legs, so that's facing the front panel. B560. That needs a long-legged one there. And I can't really see the holes. They really didn't drill these holes like a modern unit with the correct spacing. They're not even evenly spaced, I don't think. So they're a bit random still in those days. I have to, I think, bend these out properly with the pliers. Spread them out a bit and then bring them back. And at least we're resoldering a few of the joints in here in the process, which certainly won't hurt. Might as well go over anything else that doesn't look 100%. Most of them look pretty good, surprisingly. Sometimes these things are getting a bit iffy, but that one could probably do with a bit more solder. I think the other transistor's that thing there, yeah. Right there. And again, it looks like one of the leads isn't spaced equally to the others, but I guess it's because they've put a track through there. I guess back in the days before computers and stuff, you could just put down the tracks wherever you want them, and you're like, oh well, I need to get a track from A to B. There's a transistor in the way, I'll just spread the transistor leads out a bit wider. And that one was facing to the heatsink. I'm not sure the legs on this other one are going to be long enough, which is a pain. But with a bit of manipulation, we might be able to just get them far enough apart and through the board enough. Well, those two don't need to be as far apart from each other because they're, like I say, they've put them quite close. That's got to be damn close to what I want. And yeah, facing the heatsink, yeah, that should be alright, I think. I need to push that other one through a bit more. I think it's just going to make it. I'll have to solder one end. And then we'll bend the other end up. Where's that lead gone? I can't see it. Oh, it's there, there's plenty of it. Very hard to see. All that shiny solder around it. Just looks like a hole. Yeah, that's it. Beautiful. Oh, I feel a lot happier now those other ones are replaced. And yeah, I'll be even happier if I can find a manual to tell me how to set this thing up. Because at least we know then that everything's set perfect. You can probably look at the outputs and see if there's any voltage there. That might give some indication, but usually you've got to set the thing up to the manual through picking the right test points and all that sort of thing. Or maybe shorting something out somewhere to get it in the right mode. Sometimes it's just a voltage, sometimes it's a current. Okay. Hopefully it still goes. Guess I should have checked those transistors before I put them in there, would be the smart thing to do, but sounds like we're still in business. Oh, I think I unplugged the CD, didn't I? Yeah, that lights up alright. Nice bit of warm light there, including around the volume, or tuning. So yeah, got quite a nice light up dial there when you turn the lights off. Certainly not going to show up very well in the daytime. But yeah, that lights up quite nice. I like how it goes right around the tuning dial there. It's not the best job of lighting the whole dial up. It's a bit dimmer in the centre, and the panel meter's more lit from one side than the other, but yeah, I think it's kind of going around the plastic nicely, giving a glow right around it. So yeah, not a bad looking unit. So anyway, that's got the worst of this going. I better put some heat shrink on those lamps, I guess, while I think of it. And I'll see if I can find a manual online and give this a quick dust out. Yeah, surprisingly, all the volume control and everything's scratch free. Probably wouldn't hurt to give it a clean anyway. Definitely want to get all that dirt off that board. Looks like there's even a slight bit of corrosion there, maybe on a couple of those resistor leads, but without cleaning the dust off, it's hard to tell. And yeah, this is always going to have a little bit of rust on the chassis, a little bit where the case was screwed to it, so it's been stored like a lot of these things, stored in a shed or something. But it goes to show a couple of dodgy driver transistors is all it takes to blow the fuses. So even if you're not getting a DC on the output, it could just be something else that's been driven, though likely it may have put a bit of DC on the output, though they blew straight away, I think, so I don't think we even got anything out of the speakers at all. Okay, I found a manual online, I think it was on hi-fi, I forget what they're called, hi-fi-something.com. And it gives us the adjustments. So basically we just got to pull those two protection fuses, the 1.6 amps as they originally were that blew. The other one's just the voltage setter and 240 volt one. And we measure the current there. And then there's a couple of voltage adjustments to the output transistors. So fairly simple process. I guess we can just flick, that's in idle mode too. I've given this thing a bit of a warm up, normally best to run them for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, just to get them into sort of warmed up mode and everything settled down. Doesn't say to do that in this manual, but they usually do. I just do it out of habit. So if we pull these fuses, and yeah, they didn't make that the easiest. So can we access pots through the board? No, we can't. So that's going to make it a bit more interesting. We'll see what the current draw actually is. We need to go to 40 milliamp range. 300 milliamps is there. I'm almost tempted to use a clip lead, but that's not going to be the easiest either. So we've got the power coming in on that red wire side, so that should be the positive, and the other side should be the negative, because we're looking at DC current. Might need to switch my multimeter, of course, to the right setting. Current, 300 millivolts, that's right, 300 millivolts, not 300 milliamps, so it's just current DC. And the power's not even on, that probably doesn't help. Ooh, only 12 milliamps, well look at it, that's a bit low. Let's try the other channel. And that's about the same. How much did they say? 40, wasn't it? Remove the fuse, adjust the main PC board, semi-fixed resistors VR2 left and VR2B right to obtain 40 milliamp on both channels. This seems to have a very low idle current. I would expect it to be a little bit out, but maybe not that much. I'm sort of going to have to do this off camera probably, because those VRs are the ones, the outer ones. I don't know if we know which fuse is for which channel here, which doesn't help either. That's one of them that's come up. I'll just let that settle down a bit. And I guess tweak one pot and see what happens. It's actually gone down. Okay, well, there we go. Much higher. So it's quite a bit out. Interestingly. Mind you, these are pretty old pots, so probably should really clean the contacts in them in a way, but that's right on 40 milliamps. Let's look at the other channel. Interesting, they're both down by the same sort of amount. And you turn it here anti-clockwise to go up. Don't like it when adjustments are that far out. Seems a bit excessive. Geez, that one's turning quite a bit to do not much at all. Whoops, now we've gone right up. Now we went back to 12. Nearly there. Bit too high. Probably should really run these a bit and check it again after a while, but it's either 39 point something or 39.6, 39.9. That sounds good enough to me. Let's try the other channel again. Just make sure you put your fuse, your ammeter I should say, in the right hole. That's actually changed a bit, because you don't want to be touching those, put your on current range for the 240 volt side necessarily. Not sure if that shorts anything up, but it's actually changed a bit, this one. I must admit, these trim pots could almost look bad enough that they want changing as well. Given how dusty and tarnished they are. But they are surprisingly reliable old things. Even these open trim pots. So it's varying a little bit, it's slowly going up actually. Which is interesting, so that may be something to do with the thermal changes in the transistors or something. I did give it a warm up, but I guess they've probably cooled down a little bit since taking the power off. It doesn't want to move off there even if I give it a slight flick. It seems to have stabilised, but it's interesting that it changed after I let's call it 39, now it's gone to 39.9. Let's go back to the other channel. Not sure whether you should even have the speakers hooked up, but I don't see why you wouldn't. So maybe you've got to let it creep up for a bit. As the amp gets going. It's getting there. So maybe it doesn't say anything about letting it stabilise for a while, but it looks like we might need to. So I don't know what would be doing that in these old things, but something's changing a bit as it heats up. I haven't actually checked the caps in this thing yet, so I better do that, I think. But these older amps can be a bit funny, unlike the newer ones, which better semiconductors and stuff, and they tend to instantly go where they're going and stay there. Better semiconductors and better design of the amp stage usually. And a lot less quirky than these old things. It's settling down around 39 by the look of it. Hook the other channel back up again. See what that does. Oops, I've lost connection there, I think. Well, we know it's approximately right on that one. Might just have a quick look at these other settings. Whether they matter which order you do them in is another thing, I'm not sure. It doesn't say, but I guess normally do them the way they say. So make sure you get it out of the current range. Definitely don't want to put it in current range across 60 odd volts or whatever. Where can we put this thing? I'll just chuck it on top of that, really. Balance, set the voltmeter to 50 volt range. Well, it's actually more than 50 volts, I think. Between test point 1 and main amp and chassis, adjust VR1. The left one, at least with the diagram with the heatsink on that side. So I guess if you're looking across with the heatsink at the back. To obtain half the value of the power supply voltage. That's simple enough then. Power supply's on this big main filter cap here. Get it the right polarity, I guess. Yeah, 59, I thought it was about that. And it should be the same on these two pink connectors. Oh, wait up, it won't be, because I didn't put the fuses back in. So that would be the thing to do after you set the other ones. Actually, I better check that cap's probably going to be interesting to see if that cap stays charged up. There's a fair chance it will. So you've got to remember these things. It's going down to 10 volts. It's not going to harm anyone, in theory. So we want the two that go on the pink wires. Oops, I've bent the fuse holder a bit. Okay, now we'll have power on the amp. So, if we go from the earth on that cap to the pink wire on that side, making sure not to short anything else, 59, and should be pink on this side, 59. And then it's just these tabs on the outer transistors, I think. So half of 60 is 30, obviously, so 29.5, I guess, is half of 59. What, 28.6, yeah, test point 1 there. 28.6, so they're almost identical again. Is that going down slightly? It seems to be. So something in these amps is definitely doing something as the amp warms up. So they definitely do really need to be left to stabilise for a couple of minutes, I think. Yeah, it's slowly creeping down that voltage. Whether that's got something to do with me measuring it, I doubt it, but seems to probably be settled down now. So to make life easier, where's a clip lead? I'll hook up to the earth of that cap just to be sure I've got the correct earth, even though I think the chassis and the heatsink and stuff are the same. And where did I put that screwdriver? Lost it already. I just bought it today. And it's the inner pots, I guess. VR1B, VR1, VR1B. And we want, what, 29.5 I said, didn't I? Going up. So either these have drifted over time. Now of course that's going, that's pretty well settled. Or changing those driver transistors has set things a bit differently. Put that where I can actually see it with my hand in there. So going down, yeah. 29. Come on, up you go. Jumps a bit. A little bit higher. Oh, gotcha. And he had to go and change. That seems pretty settled. So I might just check those other current settings a second time after doing that. 300 milliamps. Sometimes these things you got to fiddle around with them a bit and adjust one and adjust the other, and eventually everything settles down and behaves itself. Yeah, maybe I will use some clip leads this time because it's a bit of a pain holding that on there. if I turn the power off. Maybe I should leave the other side in until I'm ready to do it. Maybe that'll stabilise things a bit. And we're sitting at 20. And we're starting to go up. I plugged the speakers back in and it seemed to settle down a bit quicker, I think. But I did have to adjust it again. It had only gone up to 26 or something. So I've given the trim pot a clean. It's now sort of circling around the 40 mark, up and down a little bit. It's got a little higher now. So that's one channel. I might put the other one back in there, and that's the red lead. I'll see what that one's doing. Yeah, it's similar. Seems to have gone back down around the 20s. See how long it takes to settle down. Yeah, I think it's settling around there by the look of it. 26 point something. Oh, starting to go a little higher. Might give that pot a little bit of squirted contact cleaner too. Oh, careful you don't short the can out on anything. Settling down somewhere around there by the look of it. Let's set it around the 40 mark and see what it does. Still moving slightly, so that's a bit of a worry. Does go backwards occasionally. I think that's probably as close as we're going to get it. Seems to stabilise. Let's go back to the other channel. Actually, I don't even need to move one end of the fuse, do I? They're joined together anyway. It's a bit silly, but anyway. Positive side is always the same, so it's starting again low. See if that goes all the way up to 40 is the question. Moving reasonably well now, so again, yeah, I think I'll have to check the caps in there, make sure they all look alright. I was going to do that anyway, but I thought I'd get these settings and have a go at them. And then see where we go from there. Normally expect these things to settle down quick, but yeah, these early ones definitely a little bit more iffy. But I guess when the modern amps get to this age, who knows what they'll be like as well. Ooh, that's, if it stays there, it'll be great. Sneaking up a bit and then back again. But I think we can call that pretty close to where we should be. We've gone a little higher. That's meant to be 29.5. Though again, we probably got to let this thing warm up a bit. That's slowly dropping. Anyway, it's within somewhere where I want to be. I don't think it's that needs to be that precision. And it's slowly creeping down as that current goes up, I guess, which would make sense. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And the current seems to be okay, so we've got that pretty right. Okay, back on this Akai, and I was just tidying up the lamps. Got that one end in alright. I've found a couple of slightly smaller but brighter ones, and that looks a lot better. And I was having trouble when I put this other one in, put the heat shrink and everything over it, and it turns out it's just ever so slightly too short. I was trying to pull the wires through, but they don't want to come in. I realised it looks like it's actually got another lamp on the side of the meter there. So it might explain why it's not lit up as well as I thought, but with a couple of smaller, brighter 12-volt lamps in there, definitely looks a lot better. So it looks like I'm going to have the fun job of pulling this thing completely to bits. I don't have to take the tuner knob off, I don't think. It looks, hopefully we just have to take these other off. Oh, there's a bit of dust and stuff. I did give the panel a quick clean up and it came up quite a lot better, but it's a good chance to actually take this off and clean everything. Looks like we've got grub screws on the, I think they're Allen keys by the look of it, on these square controls, and only a couple of Phillips screws each side. Well, those Japanese, they should be metric. Whether they're small enough, I've got these T-handled ones which are so much better to use than the other old ones. I think that's going to be too big, but we'll find out, I guess. Yeah, damn, I think that's quite a bit too big. I'll try the smallest of the non-metric. Oh, actually that wasn't the metric. I could have sworn the red ones were the metric. That goes to show what I know. Ah, that's the one. It is a 2mm. Not going to come that in. It's loose, but it's not coming. Probably got to back them off a bit. Oh, there we go. That's a couple of turns by the look of it. Is it just tight, or don't want that little grub screw coming right out? I'm getting close to it coming out. Ah, that does not want to come off. Yeah, both these other knobs, I may have to screw them right out by the look of it. I think that is loose. Oh, I do not want to lose that. I've taken that one right out and it still doesn't want to come off. There's only one on these, isn't there? Yep. It rotates a bit on the shaft, but it still doesn't want to. I don't really want to force anything against the front panel, but man, that'd be right. Simple job, and it doesn't come apart easy. Okay, let's put those little grub screws away. What have they done here? Okay, oh, if I keep turning it, that one screwed itself off at least. If I go to the other one, try the same on the other one. They're just, yeah, very tight on the shaft, I think. So, well, there's a way to get them. And while I've got it up in the air, 2 screws underneath. I'll put those grub screws back in the knobs too, so I don't lose them. Don't get them flicked across the room or something by sitting something there. Where'd I put that? Now, other 2 screws, and hopefully this front comes off. Probably a good chance to give it a clean anyway. Oh, something's happening, or maybe, oh no, the glass, or glass, it's only perspex, but the perspex isn't going to come, so this tuning knob's got to go, and that's got an even tinier little grub screw. I have to find my little VCR Allen key set, which I think I bought another one recently, which should be around here somewhere. Oh, I found one of the old sets, that'll do. I reckon it's about that size there. Perfect. Oh, it came off nice and easy at least. Sticking on a bit around, oh, the meter's coming with it. And we've got some bit of plastics dropped off around a switch by the look of it. Just put that back on there. Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely another lamp next to the meter. And, yeah, the wires are looped around there is why I can't move them. Is that glued to the front panel? Looks like it is. Yeah, that's not a great design. I have to probably unsolder that. It's hanging on by the wires, the meter. And if I've got a marker pen, that's already got a bit of black on it. And looks like the wires have been wrapped right around a million times. it down on that, unless that was never going to come off on its own. I've got the full 10mm of strip cable wrapped around there by the look of it. Where's the end of it? There. Oh, come on. Gotcha. Yes, there's a bit of dirt in there, could do with cleaning off. Oh, did that? Oh no, it must have come off the headphone socket, that other black bit, because the one for the switch is still there. That whole bit of foam's almost had its day, I think, and it's come off now. Why would they have a bit of foam around the power switch? Not really much need for that. Maybe just to make it look a bit darker. Yeah, I could do with it clean. Now, did that go on there? Yeah, well, that would have been the headphone socket one. That probably wants gluing back on. I'll get that out of the way. Yeah, so the wires for the lamp down this end come right along and they're looped around here. That's why I can't get any more length. I only need a little tiny bit. So if I just put that, pull a little bit of that slack out of it and loop it again. Pull it through the other end. Where are we? It did have a couple of like band-aid looking bits of sticky tape stuff there, which have long since lost their stickiness. That should give me enough. Oh, I've nearly pulled the lamp back out through the hole. That's a lot of work just to get a few mils of cable. Just a little bit more too, but it refuses to come through these holes in the chassis easily. Got one and another to go through. Yeah, now that lamp's in deep enough, it should be hitting on the plastic. Oh, I've actually bent it sideways a bit, so let's pull that back and straighten it. And that's part of the problem, you don't know what you're really pushing into here. Ah, yeah, that's better, so it's right out against or near the edge of the perspex. I can clean that little bit of dirt out of there now and make sure I get rid of any fingerprints. And we've got one more of these little, got one more little light here that I didn't spot before. Normally they just edge lit the main thing, but there was a bit of light getting down from this upper one, which is up under this black plastic to go along with the perspex. That seemed to be lighting the meter up a bit, but there is another one here, so let's see if we can get that out of that hard old rubber grommet without breaking it. Actually looks like it's melted into it, or the plastic's reacted to it. Unless that one I was actually running, I guess I should check before I get rid of it, but no, definitely not going. I don't know if I can slide that. There goes the wires. I thought they'd break off. They often do with these things. And then I try not to break the globe everywhere, but it's probably, yep, gonna go. Sometimes they just gotta break and be taken out in pieces. Oh man, that made a lot of broken glass. Usually at least a bit more stays together than that. Now I can't get the plastic wrap off the globe out of there. It's pretty much fused itself to the grommet, I think. Broken glass everywhere. But yeah, where's a little screwdriver or something? I'll have to try and scrape that out. It's probably alright now if I put a smaller globe in anyway. It's coming. So yeah, one little bit of plastic wrap off the globe. Now I assume those wires are hooked to the same place, but I better check. The black one, oh no, maybe not. I think that black one goes, don't tell me it was an FM stereo light or something. No, we've got one of those. funny, how'd you come? Oh no, the black wire does go over there. I thought it went to the capacitor, but I think it does go over the back there. Oops, yep, that's the one, and it goes down, yeah, to the same terminals. Why they used a black one for this light, who knows? I'll just snip a little bit off these and strip them. I'll use another one of those smaller globes that I got because they're just a little bit brighter, which is nicer. Probably doesn't matter with the meter so much, but trying to get some light down the perspex is a bit harder since it's got to go from one end right to the middle. But if it wasn't for that trouble, I wouldn't have even noticed there was another light globe in this thing. So sometimes you just, ow. Gotta check them. Ooh, it's still on there. Yeah, stuck to the plastic. A bit odd. Doesn't usually open. But yeah, this plastic melts way back on these things. Not very good quality wire in it. At least as far as the plastic goes. At least it hasn't gone brittle or anything, but I guess it is pretty old now. One day I guess these will probably go like the old valve radios and the plastic will crack and you have to rewire them and everything, but you'd hope not. But this plastic may well end up going the same way as the older stuff. A couple of little bits of heat shrink on there so we can insulate it. And one more, where I'll put those globes, I'll put them away now I think. And they're behind me. 12 volt. Yeah, these are just more like the little 3mm ones, but for some reason they're a bit brighter. I suspect those other ones aren't as bright as they should be. They're only eBay specials, so I might order some better ones from Wagner or something. I'm pretty sure they were bright enough for their little 12 volt globes. 4mm or 5mm, whatever they were. So I better put them on the list of things to get. Even though in some ways you probably should be going LED with these, but the problem with LEDs is getting the angle of light the same, though they are getting better, some of them. But they tend to be much more narrow angle than an incandescent globe that spreads the light out everywhere, and I like the glow of the old ones. They probably make some warm white LEDs maybe now you can put in there, but there's something about the incandescence that's hard to replace. I certainly don't like these people that turn them bright blue or something, that the dials in these things. I don't think it looks right, but some people probably like the more modern look. I like the old warm light. That was always a kind of nice thing about these. You sort of have the radio on and a nice warm dial light. Sort of gave it a little bit of atmosphere. Yeah, do I need to poke that? No, it goes through a big hole, I hope. Always make sure we put the lamp on after the wires have gone through whatever hole they need to go through, but this has got a great big hole. As long as the lamp can fit through the hole. So how was that mounted? That came out the other side of the grommet, like roughly that. Yeah, I broke it off from below. Better get rid of the rest of that broken glass, I guess. Yeah, so it hangs below, and the meter comes in, so yeah, it's a bit of an odd. It's actually getting a bit close to the, yeah, I probably should go a little higher like that, a bit close to this shaft of this pot. And I saw a paintbrush somewhere. Just get all the dust out of here. And it's always a good chance, especially these, like these silver knobs sticking out on the switches, it's a great chance to clean them properly while you've got the front off. You can always clean them right back down the shaft sort of thing, but you can never do with the front on. You can often see a little bit of dirt still on them. It's just the pots. There's a good chance to get those super clean. Dust off the top, and there's some dust down in this little depression here between the knob and the perspex, which I couldn't fully get out. A nice clean bit of paper. Like someone pointed out, you probably shouldn't really use paper towel on some of this perspex. It may slightly scratch it, but the modern stuff's pretty soft, so I don't think so, but it's possible you put some micro scratches, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just get on any fingerprints or anything I got on there off there. We should be right. Oh, actually I better do the panel while we've got it apart. Good chance to do the inside. And I can get in behind where that knob was. I did do the outside most of it, but still a good chance to get some bits that aren't easy to get. Looks like there's a little bit of dirt maybe has gone down between the perspex and the front panel where it's glued, so you're not going to get that out in a hurry without risking getting the perspex out. And I don't fancy trying to unglue that. There's a good chance of breaking it. Oh, there's lots of little bits of dust coming off some of this foam, and one of those little black bits was loose, wasn't it? I think that'll be alright just to pop that back on the headphone socket. And actually the end of the headphone socket is a little dirty. And another thing you can do if there's a bit of dust and stuff is get a cotton bud and go down inside the headphone socket and at least get the dust out of the barrel of the socket there, sort of thing. Just a little touch that makes them, there's a bit of muck came out of there, so she might be a bit, I haven't actually tested the headphone socket. I might go, oh, that comes out the back here, you can push anything out that's in there. And there's a bit of dust on these shafts. It's just stuck to them for some reason. A bit greasy or something. But nice to get rid of all that. Oh, solder the meter on would be a good idea. Is that all the length they gave us? Not much. I'll get those wrapped back around again as they were. Get them back in the eyelets. Come on. And wrap them back around with the pliers. Always should put them back to factory. It doesn't really matter with something like a meter, but nice to put it back so it doesn't look like you've been there. Except for some shiny solder. That's a bit shinier than it should be. Beautiful. I'm going to use a little blob of silicone or something to hold those lamps in place. And the main reason to use silicone is if someone needs to change them again in the future, they can easily just break it or tear it and remove the thing. It's just enough to stick the thing in place. And you should always think you don't want to put araldite or something in there to hold them in, even though you'll probably never see it again. Some poor person will have to fix it one day. And even though it doesn't affect you personally, it's nice to not be a bugger and ruin their day in the future. And actually one more thing with that cotton bud is the little round holes, these bits of black plastic around the switches. Good chance to get them cleaned. Oh, actually I was going to do the whole front front panel, wasn't I? And even these holes around these pots, even though there's a knob to cover those, doesn't need to do everything properly. And this hole in the perspex, not much there, but while you got it apart, it's a lot easier to clean. And I think while I've got it apart, I'll give that a proper spray of cleaner. Let that soak into the aluminium a bit. Even though I got the worst of the dirt off it before. Give it a good rub down now. And just got to be careful what you use, given there's all these labels around the controls and stuff. If you use anything harsh, you'll weak them off. So really got to just use a standard sort of cleaner. Even Windex or something will do. That one I think's got I can never remember what it's called. The stuff they use in oven cleaner, but watered down. Nowhere near as bad as that stuff, but it eats through most human grease and stuff. Caustic. I think it's got a low amount of caustic in that cleaner. It's probably the main ingredient. But it loves eating the sort of greasy fingerprints and stuff that people leave behind, cigarette tar and that sort of thing. Give it a little soak and it gets that off without being too harsh. It's nowhere near perfect, but and that's where you're sort of tempted to use something a bit harsher, but it's better to leave everything intact and a little dirty than wreck it. And this strangely has some like lettering, some red and blackish, I think they're letters. It's like I said, a cardboard box or something against it. And whatever ink's on it soaked into the panel, and it doesn't seem to want to come off in a hurry. I don't know if I should risk. I'll have a little bit of this chrome polish, metal polish stuff. That's a Bunnings special, this one. It's probably a good chance to find out whether this stuff can be used. This is meant to be good for taking light scratches off plastic and stuff. The problem is if you do it, and it takes too much off, you tend to get, I'm just going to very lightly do it, you tend to get the metal looking different, and of course you don't want to be going over the lettering with this sort of stuff. Ooh, that's not bad. I think that took all the filth off without changing the colour or appearance at all. Well, it's certainly a lot more consistent there than it was. Yeah, I think that's actually done a damn good job of just gently, very gently rubbing it. I don't want to go too hard on it. But yeah, around that knob was kind of dirty. I can see it's dirty there. And there's even a little bit more of that lettering there, even though it's kind of transparent. I can make something out. I want to try and avoid the letters. You could probably just quickly go over them, but and try and wipe it in the same direction as the original brushing, which is across the front. Yeah, I can see that taking some of the dirt patches off it. Unless I'm just covering them with this stuff, but it seems to be gone when I wipe it off. So I've just gone over most of this and see if it, because it's only polishing up the lacquer on the front panel, I think. Given it's got screen printed lettering and stuff, that likely had a lacquer coating over it. So it's probably just muck sticking to the lacquer, or it's changed colour in the sun or something, but there was definitely some print stuck to it which seems to all come off. And the worst of the dirty patches have come off. I think it has actually slightly took the gloss off it, if you really look in the light. Bit hard to tell for sure, but I think it may have made it slightly less glossy, which would make sense if it's polishing a lacquer. But at least the front's all, well, actually a couple of bits I haven't done there, a lot cleaner than it was. What do we got there? Some sort of marks. maybe a dint in it or something, some sort of damage. But yeah, given its age, that's in pretty good nick still, so it's, yeah, maybe just ever so slightly changed it. But given it was filthy, basically, it was yellowy muck all over it. I may only keep this thing anyway as a display piece, so I'd prefer it clean, even if it's not quite as glossy. And yeah, interesting, what's come off it is kind of a yellowy colour, which would be more likely a lacquer or something than a... It'd go black if it was aluminium. So I'm just going around that volume control and stuff, because there's definitely some dirt left there. Just very quickly over the lettering as quickly as I can, basically. I'll just go right along those controls. Still don't know, I think that's actual slight markings of the front there. That's all it probably needs, really, just a very light going over and then wipe it all off. And yeah, at least that is all consistently clean now. It was absolutely filthy before, so even if that has slightly affected the gloss finish, I mean, no one's going to even know if it has, really, because you don't know what it looked like before. It's only when you can compare the two bits. See what it's like when it dries right off. That's the real test, whether you ruined it or not. But no, that is consistently pretty good. And yeah, got all the filth off just about. There might be one little bit there. I can actually feel something there. Maybe that's an actual scratch. Actually, I can feel the lettering. I'll probably have to wipe my fingerprints off now. So it could be just bare aluminium, but wow, that looks a lot better than it did. You can't really complain about that. Maybe that stuff would even be good for doing the knobs when you can't get the dirt off them. But yeah, it's a little risky, again, whether you're going to change the look of them. And if you do one, you're probably going to have to do them all. Come on. A couple of these things don't seem to be lining up quite right. Put the screw holes in place, yep. I don't think that is fully on because the on-off button doesn't seem to be sticking out enough. Something there hasn't lined up. Sometimes you've got to jiggle the... Where's a bigger screwdriver? Jiggle these sockets and stuff around a little bit just to... It's nearly there. That end's right. This end doesn't seem to go quite on. Maybe the power switch bit hasn't come through or something. There's always something with these things. I suspect it's the headphone socket, isn't it? Something just went. Bingo! There's always something doesn't want to fit quite right. So quite a bit of fiddling around when you go to these sort of lengths, I guess, to fix everything. Should be safe to turn that on. I've certainly got a lot more light. It's coming out around the volume, but that'll be gone once the... Ah, yeah, that's coming up from below. And nicely lit up around the knob and stuff. You can actually see it in the full light now. When the camera adapts to that, it should be nice and bright. So yeah, it's definitely got that meter. It was only sort of lit from one side before. Now it's fairly even. It's still a little bit bright on that side. Oh damn, I've got some muck on the perspex though, even though I cleaned that. I wonder if I brushed a bit of dust back on there. Or is it one of the... Yeah, something's fallen in there. That'll be right. Well, at least I hadn't put all the knobs back on it. But we've got some dust off something. So maybe popping that phone socket through, drop something in there, forced one of those bits of rubber to vibrate a bit, and it's dropped its dust everywhere. I don't know what's happened there, but that is quite filthy. Come on. Oh, it does not want to come off. Oh, the meter's still attached, isn't it? Gotta remember that. Oh, it's this foam off the meter maybe. Not quite sure how it got everywhere, but yeah, it's filthy as. So the foam on the back of the damn meter is... I might scrape the rest of that out there and get rid of it, would be the smart way, I think. Don't know how it got up on the radio dial though. Probably when I was trying to put it back together I've bumped it. I must have lifted it up too high and bumped it on there, but there's all this browny stuff on the back of the meter here, and that is just kind of flaking off a bit, so I've rubbed the worst of it off. I won't get all of it, I don't think, but ideally you'd probably wipe the whole lot off here. Probably when I've moved this off the bench a bit and lower the panel down before lifting it back up. Hopefully we'll avoid any risk of that happening. Yeah, it's gone on cleanly. Now I've still got to get that headphone socket, or is it going to go? That's something else now seems to be holding it off. Oh, we're way out on that end. Oh, what was that? Just the fit, I think. It's just tight fitting. Yeah, the headphone socket's gone on alright this time. And yet no dirt in the thing there, so I must have bumped it, must have dropped it down and scraped it on the radio dial thing there, I reckon, the aluminium there. Always something. And yeah, you've got to be a little bit more careful probably with these old things now, that you don't get things like the old foam falling to bits and leaving muck everywhere. So this is just going to be a quick job so I can get my bench back, and naturally it's taken forever. Yeah, got some muck on there, that'd be right. Now I have to clean everything again. I'll really have to put one off completely finished, but anything that's going to be covered by a knob wants cleaning now. What have I got on the front there? God, unbelievable. Probably got some polish or something on my hands. Hopefully it's not silicone. But that's another reason to make sure you clean it. But it's possible I've touched something like the silicone. Now this knob could probably do with a big tuning knob. I might give that a little bit of that polish, because I already cleaned that as good as I could with the normal cleaner, and it left a few marks on there, like dots of, almost looks like water's been on there and corroded it slightly. I'll just go around the outside as well, trying to follow the pattern on there. And yeah, I think that's got it. Pretty sure that's come up like new again. Yeah, got rid of all that muck off there. There's a little bit of marks there. I think that's actually ever so slight damage maybe. There's no dirty looking stuff on there. Yeah, none of these dots that were on there of I don't know what. I can actually see where the grub screw used to go, so I might just, even though this knob doesn't have a pointer on it, I might just put it back where it was, because why not? Yeah, it looks so much cleaner. Get rid of that grub screw so I don't have to look at it. And it may well be the same. These other knobs I went over with a toothbrush and gave them a scrub. They're pretty good. Yeah, the face of that one's still got some muck on it. So again, I think just a quick going over with the polish. And I think one of these had a bit of damage to it. Oh, that's got some muck that wouldn't come off here. All of these have little dots of stuff. I need to give it a very quick polish on the dirty bits. Yeah, that bit's a bit rotty. That's a bit dirty. Don't think that's even coming off. Oh yeah, it's got a little mark on it. One of them's been dinged a bit on something. Oh, I took that off pretty quickly. Couldn't get that off before. There's a bit on the end. Still a little bit dirty. Yeah, that should do it, I think. Put that Allen key away before I lose it. And then all these knobs are going to have to be lined up and put back in the right position. Usually by turning the pots down to the 0 and pointing at that and just making sure it's also at the uppermost mark when you turn it right round. And these switches obviously have to point to the right markings on the front panel for whatever they're meant to select. Come on, off you come. Yeah, they're definitely improved over what they were. They're pretty perfectly clean now, I think. Besides that one I showed, one's got a few marks on it, but these have an interesting sort of texture. They're not brushed, they're more like really fine dots kind of thing. Sparkly kind of finish. Like a really small glittery look to them. Quite pleasant actually, now that they've got the dirt off them. Some of these pots do, I think, show. These don't. Sometimes the slot in the shaft is aligned to the end and mid positions, but if I point that at -10, turn it up +10, yeah, don't think I can get it much better than that. And again, when you're limited by the splines, can only really go so far. Yeah, spot on. Oh, is that slightly off? These have a centre click. Oh no, this got clicks. Oh, they're all the way around, are they? Is that what they are? Oh, they are too. Oh, that one, the centre is in the centre. Oh, it's just ever so slightly off. And yet, so that would be, yeah, that's actually back. I think I'll call that right. Because there's no way they're all going to line up with that centre. I think that centre click's a bit off. Because it's perfectly aligned with the other marks. Turn the volume down, we don't want that up too loud. Always a habit of turning it up to full and forgetting and then plug it in and get blasted by full volume. Okay, it's all looking good. There's definitely something on that front panel there. Where's the meso? I left a bit of silicone or something on there. Let's wipe that off before it sets if it is silicone. Oh, it's a little bit of muck on the display as well. That never used to be there. It's the problem with dealing with so many different chemicals and glues and whatever all at once. So where are we? I have no idea what that's actually switched to. Should have made a note. I guess I should have turned them all to a particular position. There's that T. But you've often got a bit of play. That looks a lot like it was screwed to there, but that's pointing straight down, so that can't be right. Oh, well, let's call it speaker AB and tighten it a bit. And that's what it was. Let's actually come up, well, maybe just a tiny bit off, but very close. I should be able to, yeah, just turn it a little bit, because I only just tightened it enough to rotate the thing. Tighten it properly now. Oh, okay. Now I can get the Allen key out. Perfect. I'll just tighten that one more time, just make sure it's super tight, but not overdone, of course. Yeah, that's perfect. Then we have our source switch. Now that would have been on the middle, I think. Or did I? Oh, I had to turn these ones to undo the knob, that's right. I don't particularly want to go back on either. I have to screw them back. Yeah, I'm going to have to screw them back on, that's crazy. So I just have to rotate it right around on the shaft. I can turn the shaft on the inside maybe, if I can get a grip on it. And that's the dub position. Well, let's go back up to source, one source. So that should be, if I hold the shaft, get that pointing straight upwards, and tighten it off. One, two, source, dub, yeah, all perfect. I can do the same with the AM, FM radio, etc. selector. Must have been almost want to put that knob upside down with the grub screw pointing upwards, just because it's got a bit of damage. Someone's knocked it with something. But I think it looks slightly worse with the grub screw than with the damaged side. Shame they couldn't hit the bottom of it. AM, mono, auto, 1, 2, auxiliary. Yeah, so the auxiliary's at 90 degrees there, so if I can get that in the right spot. Only problem is I can't tighten the grub screw without moving the knob. Oh well, we've got a front panel back intact. And hopefully lighting up nicely. Oh yeah, much better. Now that's more like what I would expect it to look like. Oh, FM mono, yeah. It doesn't mute on auto, that's a bit odd. Don't know whether that's a problem. Oh, is that FM? Not seeming to pick much up today. What is that pattern generator? I think it was a pattern generator and a TV running was upsetting that.
Hit music station. Pulse. Give it to me right now. Hobart's Pulse. Weather.
27 for Thursday, and a partly cloudy one's away. Up with a top of 34.
Hobart's hottest hits all day.
Streaming live on the iHeartRadio app.
I'm Ed Sheeran. Hobart's hit music station.
It's Pulse.
Hobart's Pulse.
All the girls on the block knocking at my door.
Yeah, I suspect maybe I can't get the FM stereo light up and it doesn't mute on FM stereo, so I wonder if there's actually a problem with the radio. Oh, wait, there's an FM mute on off switch. That'd be right. I'm not even sure. That station I think should be stereo, but whether I've got enough reception here to... well, I don't think I've ever seen a tuner with a FM mute on off switch. So here we go. Oh yeah, there's the FM stereo light. You mongrels. Yeah, it works. Well, muting doesn't affect the stereo light, it just was like a signal. Oh, thank God for that. Now the other thing I did check all the capacitors in the amp, and every one of those measures. The only two I didn't check, I was going to check these, so I've turned it off again. I did forget to check these two big ones. So all the little capacitors in there measured fine. I didn't actually end up doing this board because you have to unscrew it and I was too lazy, but the fact they're all fine, they'd be the most likely ones to go. Made me not bother, but I was going to just check these big ones while I got the thing apart. But all of them measure greater than what they say a brand new capacitor these days should measure, which is often what I seem to find with these older Japanese units. The capacitors are actually possibly why these things are so reliable. The caps are better than what the modern caps new out of the box are, even though they're 30, 40 years old, some of these things, probably more. I better check there's no voltage in those, I guess. Where are they? I can see them, they've got the 3 pins there because they've got the extra pin for mechanical mounting, a couple of volts, and a couple of volts. I don't think that's going to worry the ESR meter. It's not like there's 30 volts there or something with a bit of current behind it. I guess it could upset the readings. There's another possibility if there's a bit of voltage, but you mainly just got to watch you don't blow the ESR meter up. 0.03, you can't get much lower than that, and 0.02, so not surprising. Those ones are good as well. I mean, there is a bit of dust in here I do need to get rid of. There's actually a bit of dust on the bottom cover I've got to get rid of before I put it back on. It does have a bit of a rust patch there as well, which is not so good. What's that under? That's where the fuses go. Yeah, it's an odd place to have a rust patch. It's under the tuner board, so I assume something's kind of to the side of it. Something must have dripped down through the top or something and just landed on the bottom there by the look of it. The circuit board shows no signs of any problems. And yeah, that's the third screw for the front panel, is part of the base, as I suspected. Put that back together. I can change. I've got to get new fuses for this because they're too low value, but luckily they put a cover on this. I guess the fact they mount them underneath the board is why they did that. So she's a little bit of low level corrosion on this on the outside. Anyway, it seems to be worse on the inside than the outside. And I did give this top cover a clean. It came up really nice. So it's got a really tiny little bit of damage there, and as you'd expect, a few little dings and stuff on the thing. It's not going to be mint after all this time. They are quite a substantial sized unit. This is about the size of a turntable, which may have been the idea to make this the same size as a old wooden record player of those days, so that would just sit straight on top of it. Because basically, besides this, you're only really going to add either a compact cassette or reel-to-reel and a record player. So it probably made sense to make it large like this. I don't know what size the cassette players were back then, but they probably weren't much better either. But I don't think they would have been quite that big. So it's quite a bit of furniture really. And yeah, I don't know what, I haven't looked up what these were rated at power wise, but I mean it could be around 30 watts or something, I guess, with the TO3 transistors in it, and decent sized power transformer and filter cap. So it'll be interesting to look up. Once those fuses come, I'll take this top cover back off and clean out the rest of the dust. I've also got to put a power cord on it, that's right, that's another thing it needs. But at the moment I want to get my bench back, so that's got the worst of that going. Yeah, the front's looking really good on it now. So much better than it was. That's almost like new it looks. Really clean. Besides, when you turn one of those knobs you can just see the damage on the function switch. But yeah, I'm really stoked with that. It looks really good. And we get the front panel to light up. And it's looking pretty sweet as well. I'll have to do a thumbnail photo for the video of that, because that's quite a good looking machine now, and it's massive. It really is a big unit. More so than it needs to be, but I think again they've just spread all the electronics out, which is good to keep it cool, and probably to make this have the same footprint as a record player. But anyway, thanks for watching.